Good evening, Drew.
Oh, that was an ordeal.
Everything all right? Everything all right over there?
Okay. We're going to ramble right into this.
Okay.
Real quick, before we jump into anything, quick piece of follow-up here. The swear jar is up to $100.
$100. That's
$100. My lady friend here is keeping me honest in the house, and it's been a rough few days in the Fergewell house. Let's just put it that way.
okay.
So our house is now officially a COVID-19 house.
No.
Yep, we are officially quarantining at this point.
Okay.
It's funny. I had basically flu-like symptoms about a week and a half ago. I didn't really think anything of it. Like, I had a slight headache, and I was doing like a lot of pooping. In fact, I may have made mention of that pooping on this very program. Didn't really think anything of it, but my lady friend here, she exhibited some other symptoms, and with her profession, being a teacher, she basically said, you know what, I can't screw around with this. Props to friend of the show, Arthur. He went through a bit of a scare here where he thought he had it, and his advice to me was, if you think you have it, have a plan, know where to go to get tested, know what to do if you're going to have to self-quarantine. And I said, you know what, that's really good advice, and then I proceeded not to take any of that advice. So I'll be honest.
Smart.
Yeah, so the whole testing story is so very convoluted. I before we decided to get tested, I had assumed that testing was something that if I did a Google search, I could find places to get tested, and that is very much a true statement. But a lot of if you Google, COVID-19 test, you will get a list of facilities near you, mostly urgent cares, some minute clinics, some like Rite Aids and things, or not Rite Aids, but like Walgreens and things. And they will basically say, "Hey, schedule an appointment." Well, they have no appointments available. So it's like on Tuesday when my lady friend decided that she wanted to get tested, we went online immediately and started to try to find places to get tested, and it was going to be till like Thursday. And given the fact that she's a teacher, and given the fact that we didn't want to wait, we had to do a little more research to figure out where to go and get a rapid test. And the trick here is to Google COVID-19 rapid test and see what places around you are accepting like the drive-up places, because that's what she ended up doing. They did the whole swab thing. She was able to get her results pretty quickly. She tested positive, which probably means that I am either positive or was positive at some point. It's extremely unclear to me sort of how this happened. There's so many different avenues that one of us could have infected the other or became infected. I would consider ourselves to be moderate to high risk. I was going to the gym. She's a teacher. We go out to dinner on Saturdays. So, we were doing activities that probably put us at risk. I think we sort of understood that. And, now that it's here, it's kind of one of those things, well, of course, it's something that happened, and we're totally okay. We're not like, it's funny because the treatment for this is just kind of like, ride it out, right? Like there's no pills they give you. It's just like, well, if it gets worse, go to the hospital. That's kind of the treatment plan. So, we're sort of making contingency plans here at the house. I mean, clearly it's going to suck that I can't go to the gym. Mandy has made plans to be away from her job. I'm continuing the work. I feel perfectly fine. Like, I don't feel bad at all, at all. And neither of us have had a fever. Neither of us have had respiratory problems. So, knock on bamboo here. I feel pretty good about kind of how this has affected us. But that's to say, we live in a state of the world now where I sort of knew all along that I was going to catch it. It was just a question of when and how bad, and I think I've answered both of those questions now.
Good. Well, I'm glad everyone is okay, and I hope that continues to be true.
Yeah. I am going to reorder the doc here a little bit because I don't want to talk about me the whole time. So we have video game updates video game updates this episode.
Okay.
Because there's a lot going on in the video game world right now. So Paul, tell me about the PS5.
So I got my PlayStation 5 today. We're recording on Thursday the 12th. I got it today. So far, my impressions are extremely, extremely high.
Okay.
I mean, let's just get it out of the way. She's thick.
She thick though. Okay. Okay.
It's one thing to see the videos and see the pictures of how big this thing is. It's a totally another thing when you're like rearranging your entertainment center to fit this thing in there.
Ooh. Now, are you putting it in an enclosed area?
Yes, I have a little shelf, like almost everybody, people that don't mount their TVs. I have a TV stand with some areas for electronics and what underneath there. Actually, all the spaces were pretty big. It was mostly just an issue of power cord length, so I had to move some things around. It's enclosed, but it's fairly open and roomy, so I'm not really worried about heat.
But how will you see the blue LEDs?
So the blue LEDs aren't blue all the time.
Oh, well, that's
a lot
lame.
of the time they're white, and I appreciate that a lot more. They seem to change colors for reasons. I haven't figured it out yet, but it's fine. I'm looking at my television screen anyway. I'm not going to notice.
Okay,
but
so
it's big. It's big.
Okay, so so it's big. All right, real quick, put you on the spot. Name one thing you love about it.
The controller.
Okay, so help me understand here, because I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I'm extremely ignorant about this generation of consoles, because the cynical sort of PC gamer in me has watched at a distance a lot of these announcements around these current generation, now current generation, right? Because they're out, like the new Xbox and the new PS5. The impression that I'm getting here is that the hardware has been significantly refreshed. The consoles are significantly bigger.
Yes.
The controller on the PS4 is supposedly amazing, but there's not any new games out.
Well, the Xbox, I think they picked the wrong time to release the Xbox, because I don't think there's enough good exclusive new Xbox games. And the Xbox story is really weird, because it's all about backwards compatibility, and I don't know. I'd be a sad cowboy if I was an Xbox enthusiast. But there's far as PS5 goes, obviously the big one is Spider-Man Miles Morales. There is the Bloodborne remake, or is it Demon Souls? I don't know. I don't play those games.
Dark Souls, I believe.
One of those remake. Apparently, that's really good. There's the new Assassin's Creed game that's cross-platform and stuff. There's Bugsnax, which I'm excited to play at some point. It's I don't need to have the most impressive set of launch titles. As long as there's a couple games that I'm interested in, I'm fine. The backwards compatibility is hold on one second. There we go. The backwards compatibility is really good, so all the PS4 games should work. I haven't tried one yet. But I think, obviously, both the Xbox and the PS5, faster processors, faster video cards, or I guess they're not really video cards, but, GPUs, all the teraflops, faster SSDs, yada, yada, yada. But I think the one space where PlayStation has kind of made a big advancement for is, and it sounds stupid, but it's the controller. So the controller is absolutely amazing.
All right, so we'll I'm gonna go find a picture of the controller here. So tell me what is so good about this controller.
Okay, so have you used a Switch, like the Switch Pro controller, or the Joy-Cons when they introduced that HD rumble, right?
Well, okay, but I've always I feel like rumble and controllers has been around for a while.
Okay, this is so if there was rumble and it's just buzzing your hands, right? And then there was the Nintendo, HD Rumble, which tried to be a little bit more precise. I don't know what Sony did, but they took it to the next level. So it ships with a game called Astro's Playroom. And it's this little cute little 3D platformer, but it's really designed to showcase the new features. And I kid you not, you can tell the difference between like walking on sand versus walking on a hard surface versus this little time when the little guy's ice skating. You can feel those differences in the controller.
Interesting. So it's almost like they increased the resolution of
Yes.
Okay, so that's interesting then.
Yes, it is interesting. Yeah.
Now fundamentally here, because I'm looking at pictures of it, it looks like it's slightly bigger than last generation's PlayStation controller.
It is like the console itself. It's bigger. It's bigger and it's heavier. I haven't quite gotten used to that yet. I've only played for like maybe 2.5 hours today. I say only.
Right.
It is bigger. It is heavier. But it's got a bigger battery, more weight for those magic rumble bits. And the other kind of neat feature, which is the two main triggers, right? So our L2 and R2, right? The bottom triggers. They call them adaptive, but basically they have resistance, and the resistance can change based off of the game. So a couple examples.
So hold on, let me make sure I understand. So like right on my desk in front of me right now, I have an Xbox Pro controller, and it has 4 shoulder buttons, right? It has the 2 bumpers, and then it has the 2 triggers.
Yes.
Now, the triggers themselves don't have resistance, but like I can control the pressure at which I push them. You're telling me that this can like push back against you?
Yes, exactly.
Oh, okay.
So during like Astro's Playroom, there are some very over exaggerated, but there's a part where you're basically using the triggers to kind of wind up a spring, and you can kind of feel the tension increase and the resistance increase as you pull, like you'd be pushing down on a spring. When you're swinging around New York City in Spider-Man, you get a very subtle kind of like, it's really hard to explain, but the triggers kind of make you feel when like your webs hit buildings and the kind of the tension that you get through the swing. It's a really kind of unique feeling.
Interesting. Interesting.
Yes, interest. And I guess I haven't played this yet, but from what I understand in the new Call of Duty, which I think we're talking about later, on the PS5, every gun has a unique feel on the triggers.
Okay, now that sounds pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know that.
Yes.
That sounds pretty interesting.
Yes.
So the cynical person in me then says this seems like it enhances the gameplay experience. And again, if I'm going to be cynical, it's almost like, wow, I really want to know what Call of Duty looks like when I play this game. They certainly don't make a demo available, so I guess I'm going to go, okay, yep. You're not going to go spend $60 to find out.
Probably not. I'm not a Call of Duty person.
Right.
I've never played one. It's not my thing, but I am kind of excited to see where developers go with this. Like it's something new. It's unique to console gaming, having that controller, and I think them really using this to kind of make the gaming experience more immersive. It's just interesting. It's something you notice immediately. I don't know, it's just really freaking cool. And of course, like, hey, the PlayStation 5 can do ray tracing now, and the SSD. I mean, the SSD is fast. Like I give them no like qualms on that. Like you can go from like boot up into the game in a handful of seconds.
I've sort of always wondered about that, right? Because that seems to be one of the biggest selling points of this current generation of hardware. It's like, why has it taken consoles so long to put SSDs into consoles? Because I feel like, I mean, when SSDs first came out, they were really expensive, but I can't imagine that if with the previous generation, if they had invested in, a 250 gig or 500 gig SSD, like it wouldn't have dramatically changed the overall unit cost of these things. I mean, I'm totally speculating, but I feel like, it's great, but we've had SSDs for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. And I mean, you have to remember this console generation is like the previous one was like 7 years old. And I mean, there was like the Pro and whatever Xbox. I mean, the Xbox, can we all just agree that the Xbox naming convention is awful?
I don't know.
And whoever's in charge of that should just quit their job.
I don't know if I'm allowed to comment on this.
It's bad. I don't know what to call the previous generation's upgraded 4K console. But I think they didn't want to differ too far from the original specs to give game developers a snowball's chance of hell of actually, being able to have their stuff run on the new hardware. And, a new console generation gives them a chance to kind of, reset and go, here's the new stuff. Here's what the new capabilities are. But it's noticeable. Like, I remember playing, Spider-Man on my PlayStation 4 Pro. It was still a great experience. Love that game. But like the transition from like going from the city to an interior experience and back, or fast traveling, it was, you've watched a loading screen. Now it's just instantaneous. Like there is no loading screen. It just flows in from one to another. Yeah, it's nice to finally see console gaming's kind of, take a big step forward and kind of catch up to their bigger brothers.
Now, in your time with the console, it sounds like you dove kind of headfirst into the new Spider-Man game.
Yeah, I played a little bit of Astro's Playroom just because, that's what people were allowed to talk about first, and I kind of wanted to feel what the controller could do. But yeah, Miles Morales is my first real PS5 game. Yeah.
Okay, and what do you think? Worth the wait?
So far, so good. Like, I've only played it for a couple of hours or so. It's good. It's good. I enjoy it. It's, it's not earth-shattering, right? It's not a sequel. It's just a kind of another story set in that same kind of, it's not a full game, right? I think it's like a 20-hour experience. But it's really interesting to see. It's neat because I can see all the improvements they did in that kind of Spider-Man engine, adding the ray tracing, they're increasing performance, everything's just a little bit smoother. Yeah, it's nice. It's good.
Now, so let's talk a little bit then about like what you have. So obviously, we talked about this a while ago, but you upgraded your TV not too terribly long ago. You're gaming in 4K, I take it.
I am, yes.
So your 4K, your TV probably supports HDR. It probably looks amazing.
It does.
Now with ray tracing, which is an extremely graphically demanding thing, which I'll talk a little bit here when I get to my stuff. But what sort of performance are you seeing?
So with Spider-Man, you basically have two modes you can run in. You can run in what they call, I think it's fidelity and performance. So fidelity has the full 4K resolution, the ray tracing, everything, and it runs at from what I can tell, a locked 30 frames per second. There is a performance mode which turns off a lot of the ray tracing, kind of falls back on some other technologies for reflections, and it runs at 60 frames per second. Mm-hmm. I'm going to try both at some point to see which I like. I left the high fidelity mode on to get all the ray tracing and the stuff. And because, to be honest, I mean, with my PlayStation 4 Pro, most of my games, not all, but most of them ran at 30 frames a second anyway. So I'm used to it.
Okay. So you're getting around 30 frames with all the bells and whistles turned on this thing.
Yes.
Okay. And I know that purists will argue that 60 frames is always a target. I always try to keep my games above 60 frames, just for the smoothness of it. I mean, but I've been playing video games long enough that 30 was a blessing, right? Like
Yeah,
original,
exactly.
like original Quake or Quake 2. If you were getting 30, bud, woof, you were having fun.
Yep.
Okay, so that kind of answers my question then, because I sort of wondered how these consoles were going to handle that, because not that they're lacking in the compute department, but this whole ray tracing turn that a lot of developers are sort of starting to embrace now as computing hardware gets faster and more powerful because we're making electricity flow through things faster. But I sort of wondered how they were going to handle that. And it's sort of, again, I have done absolutely zero research on this, so it makes me kind of the lazy one. But so it sounds like it's a little toggle switch that you can sort of flip.
Yeah. And I imagine, like, this is early, right? The developers have just got their hands on the hardware, figuring out what they can do. Like, and you can see this any console generation. Like, the games at the end of the generation perform much better and look way better and do things you never thought were possible with the same hardware that, like, the games early generation just don't do. So, I'm sure that given a few years, the developers will figure all this stuff out, and maybe we can actually get 60 frames and ray tracing out of a game. But we'll see.
Well, it's funny because now that I've upgraded my computer to this obscenely expensive graphics card, I have taken it upon myself to really try to push every game I can to the highest settings and turn on ray tracing and everything. So I don't own a ton of games. That take advantage of ray tracing at the moment. But okay. I did download and try a couple. So the first one that I really tried to push with ray tracing is Minecraft. And I actually broke my own rule. I told myself that I would never download Minecraft, but I did it. And in the Minecraft beta, you can download and turn on RTX mode, which is ray tracing mode in Minecraft. It's a really interesting experience, and frankly, I found it a little cumbersome to get working correctly because in order to have ray tracing enabled, you need to first opt into the beta, and then you have to create a new RTX-enabled world. But the only way to really get an RTX-enabled world right now is to download some like prefabbed worlds, if that makes sense. And I'm saying words as they relate to Minecraft, and I don't understand Minecraft. So if you're listening and you're like, Drew's an idiot, like don't send me your hate mail. But this RTX mode, which for those of you that aren't familiar with these terminology, like RTX is ray tracing, is basically what we're substituting things there for. But it's kind of NVIDIA's take on what ray tracing is and ray tracing implementation. It looks pretty amazing. The reflections and the effects that it can show were really good. And I got very good performance. I don't think I ever dipped below 100 frames at my native monitor, like ultra wide resolution. Nice. With everything sort of turned on, and it looked fantastic. Now, the other game that I tried, and Paul, I don't know if you've seen this game, but I'm gonna put a link in. I'm gonna put a link in the chat. Okay. There's a game, and the game is called Ghost Runner. I
have heard of this, but I have not looked into it. Or
okay, so Ghost Runner is a game. It's very cyberpunk-y-ish. Where you are a person, I think, that runs around with a sword killing people. But the conceit here is that it's like a one-hit kill type game. So if you get shot, you lose. So you have to constantly stay moving. So this game is designed to be played at a super high fluid movement rate, and you jump around and you can sort of pause time and dodge to the left and right. It's amazingly atmospheric, and it has a RTX mode. Now, when I cranked this to the max, I never saw 60 frames.
Okay.
With ray tracing and everything enabled. I think I was averaging around 40 to 50. And this is with what is ultimately considered to be the best graphics card on the market right now. So now I'm willing to bet that and this is they call it experimental mode, so maybe it's their implementation, maybe it'll get better, but maybe it won't. Maybe games of this fidelity at these resolutions, even though NVIDIA has made a big deal about being able to play these games at 4K with everything turned on, it makes me wonder what I'm going to expect when I get to Cyberpunk, because I really, really want to turn on every conceivable option when I play Cyberpunk. That is my goal. That's part of the reason I upgraded. But playing this game at everything turned up, where the game is designed to move as fast as possible, yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know if it's my computer or how it's optimized.
No. I think really, like, ray tracing is really just now starting to hit the market. Kind of, there's enough. I mean, I know you could do some of it on the old, like, the 2080 stuff, I believe, the high end, last generation cards. But really, like, this is really the first generation, both with video cards and with consoles, that ray tracing's even possible. And I just don't think that they've figured out everything yet. I think for the next probably year and a half, it's going to be a compromise, right? You're going to have to pick, do you want the highest number of frames or you want the highest possible, visuals? Mm-hmm. But I really believe, that within a year and a half that you'll be able to take these same games and run them at much higher frame rates, fully maxed out, as they figure this stuff out, as they optimize all the algorithms. I said that wrong. That word came out of my mouth wrong. As they optimize everything and figure out all the math and all the shortcuts and everything, and so many of these games are built on other people's engines, so they have to wait for Unreal to figure all this stuff out. It's going to get there. It'll get there. It's early.
Yeah. And, I think I will get a much better answer tonight, because we're recording this again on a Thursday. This is the eve of the launch of the next Call of Duty, which is Call of Duty Black Ops Cold War. I'm very excited. I did play in the beta. I really enjoyed it. There was nothing that really turned me off about it. I'm looking forward to getting in there. This game will basically support every conceivable option that I could take advantage of with graphics fidelity. So the first thing I'm going to do, I'm probably going to stay up till midnight tonight, and I'm going to do. I just want to see kind of how it goes. I want to hop into single player, not multiplayer, because I don't think I'll take advantage of this. Because for me, multiplayer, as long as it still looks good and performs at its highest frame rate, that's my goal for multiplayer. But if I'm playing single player, I want every conceivable option turned on so it looks gorgeous, and I want to see what it looks like. I'm very, very excited to try it.
Now, I have never played a Call of Duty game, like not even like someone else's copy of the game for 5 seconds. My fingers have never touched a Call of Duty game ever, not one.
Okay,
but I know they're really popular, and I hope your video card kicks the living shit out of it.
Yeah. I'm hoping so too. Now, what's interesting is, like, my history with Call of Duty is really weird, because remember that Call of Duty for the longest time was kind of stuck in that World War II sequelitis type thing, where it was like World War II, and then it was World War II Africa, and then it was World War II something else. And I remember when the first Call of Duty Modern Warfare launched, like, I bought it and I played the campaign, and it was awesome. Like, the missions were just these awesome set pieces, and it was really cool. And I sort of remember at the time that everybody was just absolutely losing their crap over the game, and I didn't really understand why. I'm like, well, I beat the game, at medium difficulty. I felt pretty good about my life. But then I hopped into multiplayer. And this was like the year that they introduced like the idea of leveling up in multiplayer and unlocking guns and unlocking attachments and you being able to customize it and kill streaks. And it was when Call of Duty as we know it today evolved to that Call of Duty. And, I played a lot of last year's release of Modern Warfare, which was Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2019 or whatever they were calling it. And, I was pretty good at it. Like, I did really well. I unlocked a lot of the, like, prestige level camouflages that were really hard to get. And my buddies and I, like, we played that game almost every night. It really had its hooks in me in a way that a Call of Duty hadn't had its hooks in me for a long time. And part of that was there wasn't, like, heroes with superpowers or anything in it, which Call of Duty sort of went in that direction where they tried to go that MOBA route where each player character had like a special ability, and some of them were just really bad and some of them were just really good. And that was like the last Black Ops that they released. But with this one, it looks like they're sort of building on what they had done with last year's Call of Duty, where they're taking us back to the 80s, so it's a lot of like classic guns, and the idea is there's going to be a story kind of wrapped around the Reagan years, and
it's Cold War, right?
Yeah.
See, I love stuff, movies, anything kind of set in that time period.
Yep.
This could be the one that pulls me in.
I mean, at least for the single player campaign, right? So it's going to get me. I mean, obviously I kind of lucked out, although I don't know if this qualifies as lucking out, but when I bought my new graphics card, I got a free copy of the game. I mean, I would have bought it anyway, don't get me wrong.
Nice.
And of course, they're actually doing some interesting things too, where like after the game launches, not at launch, but after the game launches, Call of Duty Warzone, which is the free-to-play Battle Royale part of this game, it doesn't matter whether you download the Cold War game and play Battle Royale through that or Battle Royale through last year's Modern Warfare. They're going to be able to, like, your Call of Duty account is kind of shared between both of them, so you'll be able to use, like, operators and skins and loadouts from both games. It's really sort of fascinating because Call of Duty does this thing where each year it switches back and forth between the Infinity Ward developer and Treyarch. So last year was Infinity Ward, this year is Treyarch, next year will be Infinity Ward. Well, it's almost like, now that Activision sort of, I think, publishes both of those games, there's this like overarching like framework of like data that's shared between them, and you're going to be able to like I'm like way off the rails here, but you're going to be able to like sync your progress between the both of them, which is the first time I think that's ever been done with this franchise. Because I mean, people still play the crap out of last year's Call of Duty.
Yeah. So
I'll be playing it if you're listening.
Very
and you're
playing.
Yeah. It's cross-platform too, so you can play with PC, Xbox, and PS5 people. If you're playing and you want to play, my gamer tag is Pitfurg, PITTFURG. Feel free to add me as a friend. Be happy to play Call of Duty with you. I'm really good at it, so if you're bad, I'll probably like kick you out of my group. But just a heads up. Okay, one last thing before we sort of get off of the video game part of this podcast. Paul, are you a YouTube Plus subscriber?
I am not.
So Google is essentially giving away free Stadias now. Did you see this?
No, I had no idea.
Okay.
Well, I saw it when I opened up the dock to put in some of my stuff, and I saw that you had got a Stadia for. Well,
I haven't gotten it.
I don't want to give away. Okay.
Yeah, I haven't gotten it yet, but essentially, Google has decided. I don't understand why. Google gonna Google, but if you were a YouTube Premium subscriber, which I am, you qualify for a free Google Stadia, which is essentially a Chromecast with a controller. I mean, that's what it is. So, Google, for all the things I don't like about it, Chromecast is pretty good. So I'll take a free Chromecast. Now, the catch was you had to sign up for Stadia Pro, which is the subscription service that lets you play games. I get 3 free months of it.
Okay.
I'm scheduled to get my Stadia the first week of December, for which point I will promptly cancel that service.
Right.
Yeah, so I'm just in it for the free Chromecast. But I think it is interesting that all of a sudden they're just deciding to give the console away. Interesting timing, given that the consoles are sort of launching this week.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't heard great things about Stadia.
Neither have
both with how it's performed and how it's been selling. I'm guessing it hasn't been selling well because it doesn't perform well. So I'm kind of curious to see what you think.
Yeah, so for those of you that don't know, the Stadia is Google's take on a streaming gaming service. The idea is that when you want to play a game like Call of Duty, you fire up your Google your Chromecast that has a controller that is like wirely attached to it. And the idea is that you play the game on someone else's computer, and the display is sort of streamed to your Chromecast. They say that they have pretty much eliminated all lag, which
they haven't.
They haven't. Yeah. So basically what you're doing is you're playing a video game on a computer that is not in front of you, which I'm sure there's a certain amount of magic that happens. I am more than willing to try it. I don't have high hopes. Like I said, I'm just sort of doing this to get the free Chromecast.
Yeah.
So
you might as well get it if it's for free. So
and it's a $99 bundle. We can't afford not to.
Ooh, you can't afford not to. You're throwing money away.
Yeah, exactly. So anyway,
I just want to point out how proud I am of both of us that the words Call of Duty have been said multiple times and neither one of us has snickered once.
Duty. Well, we're very mature here.
Speak for yourself.
Yeah. Okay. Before we dive into the ultra nerdy topic tonight, I have officially finished the Sandman comics.
Wow. I haven't even finished volume 2,
which I'm really disappointed in you for.
I know. I haven't been spending as much time as I would have. I should be spending reading comics, and when I do, I've been keeping up with the series that I've subscribed to. By the way, there is a new version of Rorschach coming out like next Tuesday.
I haven't read any of them yet. Was the first one good?
The first one's good.
Okay.
So did you like the series?
I did. However,
okay.
I got very concerned when I got to the 9th kind of volume in the 30th anniversary series. Funny thing about all of these books is you definitely want to read them in order because there's a lot of things that happen in some of these books and some of these editions or issues or whatever they're called that call back to things that have happened before. And I was totally okay with it. Like, you would start reading a certain issue and you weren't really sure what the heck it was going to have to do with anything, and then all of a sudden there would be like a little clue in a panel and then you saw it coming, and it was like, wow, pretty awesome. When I got to book number 9, things really went off the rails for me. There was a lot going on there. I didn't fully understand what was happening almost until the very end of the book. After I got done with it, I was like, I wasn't sure what I just read. So I went back to a few chapters and I reread them, and I was just like, I don't really understand what happened here. Now, prior to that, there's a what's the name of it? Hang on a second here. So World's End. Okay, so World's End is one of the volumes, and it tells a particular story. I'm not going to get into it here because I'm not going to give anything away. That particular point in the storyline takes a very strange turn. But by the time you get to the end of it, you're like, oh my god, it all makes sense. Like it was masterful. And when I got to the 9th volume, I sort of expected the same thing, that same kind of payoff to happen, and it didn't for me. However, when you get to number 10, a lot of the things, it's almost like volume 10 is like a makeup call, where it sort of like goes back a little bit and explains some of the things that happened in number 9.
Oh,
okay. And number 10 ends beautifully. Without spoiling anything, it is a very eloquent and sad and touching way to send off the series. They did a fantastic job sort of putting a bow on everything. Again, not spoiling anything, but one of the major sort of things and themes in Sandman is the idea of time and death. Yeah. And the way they sort of approach the concept of death and the character of death in this series, I thought was really good. Issue 10 nails it. Or not issue 10. Volume 10 nails it. So I really encourage you, if you've started this series, read through the whole thing. Paul, I'm gonna remind you to get through it.
I will.
It's it was just so good. I'm actually sad that I'm done. I'm actually going to start branching out and reading some more of the author's works. Neil Gaiman. I don't know how you say his name, which makes
Gaiman, I believe.
Yeah, Gaiman.
Yeah.
I'm going to start branching out and reading some out. He has written some short stories and some novels. I'm going to start reading some of those and some of his other comic, graphic novels works. I was really sad, but again, the way that it ends was just beautiful. I can't, without going too much into detail because you haven't read it. I don't think I could do it justice. You're just going to have to read it.
I will get caught up, and then in 6 months or so, we can have a spoiler cast.
Yeah. Okay. But anyway,
I don't know how many episodes ago I did mention that I started reading Batman 3 Jokers.
Yeah.
Turns out it's only a three book series. Now the books are beefy, like they're big chunky books. The third one just came out. I finished it. It was fantastic. Highly recommended. Make sure you read A Killing Joke first. That's what I will say.
Okay, I did that.
Okay,
I did that. I also watched the animated series of Killing Joke,
which is fine. Yeah,
it's fine. It's fine. I don't really understand the whole Batgirl thing, but whatever.
Yeah. Yep. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, I didn't. That was weird.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Macs.
Yeah, let's keep the nerd train rolling here. So big announcements this week. Apple had its One More Thing conference where they finally unveiled the new Macs running on the Mac Silicon. Mm-hmm. Paul, walk us through this.
Well, Apple's making some big old claims here. So obviously Apple's been making their own chips for a long time. They've gotten really good at making ARM chips that power their, the phone, the iPad, the watch, the HomePod, everything. Everything is full of stuff that Apple designs. I think TMC still, or Foxconn, I can't remember. TMC makes the chips, I think. But Apple designs them. And to be blunt, last year's iPhones are still faster than the fastest thing that Qualcomm or Samsung could make, right? They're in a different class of their own. The chips that are in the the iPads are already outperforming a lot of the stuff that Intel was doing anyway, especially in single core performance. So Apple didn't have to do a whole lot to make a chip for their laptops that had ridiculous performance. But boy, man, they're sure making some hefty claims there. They're saying that the new Apple Silicon is they call it the M1 chip, the M1. I assume the M stands for Mac or money. I don't know, your pick. They're saying that it is faster than 98% of all PC laptops sold. They're claiming 2 to 2.5 times performance over the existing Macs. The battery life is better. The performance per watt is just absolutely ridiculous. Yeah, and you can buy them in a brand new MacBook Air and a 13-inch MacBook Pro or a new Mac Mini. Yeah, I mean, some of the Geekbench benchmarks have leaked because, of course, they have, and if the numbers are to be believed, these may be some of the fastest consumer chips ever created, and that's without a fan. So we'll see.
Yeah, the design of the M1 chip is really interesting. So it's an implementation of ARM, right? It's ARM, but yes. It's not ARM.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's not
it's Apple's version of ARM,
right? Yeah. And it's not like you can download and run an ARM application natively on a Mac day one. I don't think. I think it needs to be specifically compiled for the Apple Silicon. But what's interesting about these chips is that unlike most computers that you buy today, when you buy an 8-core processor, you have 8 cores on the chip. Well, these Apple Silicon chips, if they're 8-core, they're doing a thing where they have like 4 high-performance chips and 4, I think they're calling them efficiency chips.
Efficiency.
Yeah,
efficiency.
And the idea is that, you know, if you have a light background application task, you want that running on the efficient cores, and you want your foreground high performance applications, whether that's like your video editing, photo editing, compiling stuff, whatever, that's what you want running on the bigger, beefier performance cores. So part of this architecture is that as developers start to kind of build applications that are native to this chip, it's going to be making sure that you schedule them on the right core, which
surprise, they're already doing this on all the recent A series chips have had this same model, and it's already baked into Apple's SDKs, right? You can, when you specify like background tasks, you can basically specify a priority. You can say this is a good task for the background. This is a good task for this is like a foreground task that the user is waiting on. And the silicon itself does a good job of figuring out what's going on and scheduling things to the right cores. So, spoiler alert, developers on the Apple platforms have already been, dealing with this stuff. And it's going to be just the chips are going to take better advantage of that.
Mm-hmm. Now the trade-off here, though, is this is not, an x86 architecture that we have been accustomed to. And day one, not every application is going to run the right way on these computers. And Apple, for their part, has sort of anticipated this. By the way, not the first time Apple has migrated to a new processor architecture in their day. So we've sort of seen Apple go through this before when they moved away from PowerPC to Intel. But basically, the apps that you're going to have on there are going to be one of two types. Applications that have been natively compiled to run on the Apple Silicon are going to be called universal apps, meaning if you install a universal app, it will run on existing Intel Macs today. It will also run on native Silicon chips without any sort of emulation, if I understand that correctly.
That is correct.
Whereas if a developer doesn't want to port their application over to a compiled universal app, it will run in what they call Zeta 2, which is
Rosetta
2. Mm-hmm. Yeah, which is Rosetta 2, which is their emulation engine that sort of sits on top of their ARM architecture, but emulates x86 architecture, so the applications will still run. But
okay.
But
I'm curious about your butt because I have a butt.
Okay, but there's one thing that this will not do day one for people like me.
Yep.
And that is
virtual machines.
Virtual machines and by association containers. That is not super problematic for me because I have access to extra computers here at the house that I can remote desktop into to do some of that work when I still need to use Windows on my day-to-day work. However, not having a native Docker environment is going to be tough because I'm doing a lot of things with Docker these days. And that, to me, is what is sort of holding me back from jumping in with both feet at the moment.
Yeah, I mean, they'll get there for sure. Yeah. It's just a matter of time for them to get the support and figure out because things like that really rely on, the underlying, the underlying. The really getting down to the nitty gritty of how the operating system works. Now, some of the fun thing is obviously Apple has shipped some of the developer, they shipped a developer transition kit, which was a Mac Mini running like an A14. In some cases, not all. In some cases, on these new chips, the stuff running under Rosetta 2 still runs faster than it would run on an Intel chip.
I saw some of that, right? Even with the emulation engine, it still gets pretty crazy.
Yes. So, in fact, like what they're saying, like I follow one of the developers on Twitter, and they also talk about this in this week's Accidental Tech podcast. But I guess like the chips are so fast and Rosetta 2 works so well, they're basically saying, hey, make sure that if your multi-threaded code is tested well, because the execution of these chips, if you have, you know, timing issues or weird race conditions or possible, deadlocks, the speed of these chips will increase the amount of threading issues in your, poorly written code, even on Rosetta 2. Yeah. So, like, test your stuff.
Yeah.
Which is just ridiculous.
Now, did you order one?
I sure did.
Okay.
Not for me, but for my wife. My wife. She has like a 2014 MacBook Pro that she's been lightly using for a long period of time. And now that she's working from home, I finally got her off of her Chromebook that she got from school and got her using her Mac, and she likes it much, much more. But it is older. When she's doing a Google Meets hangout or, recording her lessons, sometimes the fans kick on and, Mac fans aren't known for their quietness, right? They like to either not run or sound like a hurricane, right? Those are their two modes. And it's been getting, it's 6 years old, right? It's been due. So the day that these computers came out, I was like, well, hey, like, I think it's time to get you a new computer. And these new ones just came out. And she's like, are they faster? And I'm like, well, they're supposed to be. And she's like, sold.
Good for Jennifer.
Because she's really using her computer now. So having something better. So, I gave her the option of that's really the big difference between the MacBook Air with the M1 and the MacBook Pro with the M1. From what I can tell, they're the same chip. It's just the MacBook Air doesn't have a fan and the MacBook Pro does. So obviously the MacBook Pro is going to be able to maintain higher clock speeds for longer. I don't think what she's doing is really going to be taxing the processor that much. Like, really, it's just, Google Docs, recording stuff, like, she's not really pushing it hard. It's just, I'm sure it's Chrome just, doing what Chrome does and going, it's time to run the CPU at 100% now. Woo woo. Kicking on those fans. But yeah, so she agreed to get a new M1 powered MacBook Air. We spec the thing out just about to the maximum.
Wow. I'm actually on the Apple site right now looking at I want to get one of the Mac Mini, so continue. I'm actually looking at the MacBook Air right now.
Yeah, so we got our education discount, so we got a little bit off of it. I went with the 7-core GPU because I know they're bin processors. It's fine. I don't need all 8 cores for her GPU. Everything else is fine.
What color?
She wanted black.
Oh, good for you, Jennifer.
Which is the wrong color for a Mac, but I did not argue that with her. She wanted black. She likes black phones. She wanted a black laptop. I'm happy with her. 16 gigs of RAM. She also keeps her photo library on her Mac, and she has a 1 terabyte drive now, and she's got maybe 180 gigs left on it. So we made the decision to get the 2 terabytes of storage.
Wow. Oh, wow. Okay, how much memory again?
16, the highest you can get.
Oh, dear. Oh, no. Oh, dear.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, dear.
Yep. So...
Wow.
She's getting the... And what really rubs me raw, Drew? Rubs me raw?
I'm listening.
So you know how much that laptop, like, you can spec it out. You can see that number, right? You add Apple Care, you add tasks, you subtract a little bit for the education discount. You can get roughly in the ballpark. I guarantee you that Mac is going to be more performant better performing, and all just a better experience all around without a fan.
You're gonna want one.
Than my brand new 2016 high-end 8-core Intel that I probably paid twice as much for.
You know what, buddy? You're not wrong. You're not wrong, buddy. So
and the battery life is better. Like,
so okay. So do we want to put some odds on how long it takes for you to order one?
You know, I still run the occasional virtual machine on my computer as well. Not as much as someone who's not a middle manager.
I was going to say, like, is there some sort of like, is there some sort of HR application that still needs .NET like framework or something? Like, what do you need? What do you need Windows for?
You know, I have a personal Windows VM that I use occasionally for things, or if I want to try something out, it's there. I run a VM of the previous version of Mac OS for reasons that I don't want to get made fun of again for. So it's in occasion, like every 6 months or so, I'll install the latest version of Ubuntu to kick around the tires to see how things are progressing there. So it's not a high use case for me, but it's something that I do enjoy, that I like having the option. I'm not looking to replace mine anytime soon. I mean, maybe I'm sure my next MacBook will be Apple Silicon, Apple design chip. But for the time being, I'm happy with my computer. It just, if what Apple is saying is true, they with their first attempt at a consumer laptop or consumer computer chip, they're going to just put like Intel to absolute shame. It's like, yeah, they're faster, they run cooler, they use less power, they're they're smaller. Yeah. Just absolutely just knock it out of the park. So we'll see. So her laptop comes by the end of the month because it's a custom order. We don't get them right away. They have to, build it. But I'm really excited for her to get her hands on it and, put it through its paces.
Wow. That is going to be one nice machine. Now, how soon will you get it again?
I think it's supposed to come November 21st to the 27th. Hold on. Let me search my email.
Yeah. So, Apple. Yeah. So not for another. So you won't have a review next week, but we might have a review the week of Thanksgiving.
Hopefully.
I would love to hear kind of first impressions.
My purchases. Nope. That's the wrong thing. I have too many emails from Apple. I can't find it. Hold on. Maybe I archived it. Let's go to apple.com. I bet you it's there.
Good bet.
Hold on. I gotta find my order. I gotta put my finger. Yep. Touch ID. It's not gonna work. That's fine too. This is good audio.
Yeah, I'm enjoying it.
There we go. Touch ID. Signing in. It's gonna ask me for it again. I guarantee it. Something went wrong.
Well, you know what? That sounds like a great way to end this show. Something went wrong.
No, I'm gonna check on the app now. The Apple Store app. Let's see. I bet you. I know. Apparently, it's been a bad day for Apple. So.
Yeah, a bad day for Google the other day too. Like YouTube went down.
Oh, yeah. It's not showing me anything. I can't see. It's Apple.
It's okay, Paul. I believe you. I believe you're getting your Canadian girlfriend a Mac. I believe you.
Really, the most amazing part of the whole thing was how little I had to sell her on getting a new computer.
Wow.
She was like, "Is it going to be faster?" I'm like, "I'm pretty damn sure it's going to be." She's like, "Okay."
Wow.
Like, no fan? Sign me up.
Wow.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very excited to learn more.
Yeah.
Wow, we really got after it there.
We sure did.
All right, let's wrap this thing up.
As always, you can find us on the internet at doingtheirbest.com. You can find us on Twitter at doingbestpod. You can find me at Paul Baylor. That's BAHLER. And where can we find you, Drew?
Yeah, I'm on Twitter at Pittsburgh, PITTFURG.
thanks for listening, everybody, and stay safe.